In this video, I will introduce the tabular method for integration by parts. So basically, tabular method is perfect for integration by parts more than once. Uh, work on integral. This would yeah. Work on integrals that represent repeat when doing integral by parts. So basically, if you have a repeat in integration by parts. Also remember, tabular method doesn't always work. Your u prime must eventually be zero. I'll show you what I mean by u prime. Um, when we do the first example. Okay, so let's look at this example. We want to take the integration of 6x squared sin of 7x dx. So we could try definitely the tabular method. So you're going to make um, a three column. So if you recall, the integration by parts is this rule. Right? So you got to figure out your U and your DV. So yeah, you're gonna make a three column. Okay, so in the first column it will be your sines, and then in the second column it will be your derivative, and then on the third column it will be your integral column. Use blue. Okay. So so on the first sign it's going to be positive. And then before we go any further, let's figure out what is our U and what would be our DV. So our U would be, U is always the simpler one. U is the one that can eventually go to zero. So U will be 6x squared. And then dV is sin of 7x dx. Okay, so U is always this simpler one that eventually can go to zero. And then the dV is the more complex. So on the first one, for the derivative, it's just going to be your U, which we said was 6x squared. And then on the integral column, your first term would be your dV, which is sin of 7x dx. Okay. And then on the second column, for the sign, it's going to be minus. And then it's going to be u prime. So the derivative of 6x squared is 12x. And then your v1, or your v, I'll call it v1 because we're going to take the integration one. So what is the integration? To define v, you basically take the integral of dv, right? So the integral of 7x, sin of 7x dx. So how do you take the integration of sin of 7x dx? You're going to do u substitution. Your u would be 7x. Your du would be 7 dx. Now, we have to get rid of the 7 because we don't have a 7 here. So to do so, you're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal 7, which is 1, 7. Okay, so this is going to be 1, 7 du, and then this is going to be 7 times 1, 7 just becomes dx. So that comes out nicely. So you're going to say sin of 7x, or in our case, 7x is our u, and then you replace dx with 1, 7 du. 1/7 is a constant, so you could take it out. So it'd be sin of u du. So when is the integration of sin of u du? It is negative cosine of u. And then don't forget you have to multiply this by 1/7. So your v, or your v1, is negative 1/7 cosine of 7x. Okay, and then keep on going because we eventually you're going to stop until your u prime becomes 0. So the next sign would be positive, and then u double prime is the derivative of 12x is 12, and then v naught is basically the integration of this. So the integration of negative 1/7 cosine of x, I'm just going to write it out. You could do the work, but when you do the work, it's going to be negative 149 of sin of 7x. And then keep on going. One more because we want u prime to be 0 eventually. So it's going to be minus. And then u triple prime is finally 0, which we can stop there. And then your v naught, your v3, or the integration, your integration of negative 1/4 sin of 7x is positive 1 over 3/4 cosine of 7x. You can do the work, but because I have a limited time, I just put it in the calculator. So the integration, yeah. So now let's figure out what would be our first term. So our first term, so how you do this is well, you look for the sign. So our first sign is positive. So our first term is going to be positive. And then what you do is multiply your u and go multiply it by the second term of your integral. So basically you're going like a diagonal. So you're multiplying 6x squared, which is your u, by the v1. So that's going to be 6x squared. And then your v1 is negative 1/7 cosine 7x. Okay. And then the second term is going to be negative. And then if you want, you can put a bracket because you eventually have to distribute this negative. And then it's going to be u prime times it by v2. So it's like going diagonally. So it's 12x times negative 1 over 49 sin of 7x. And then keep on going. The next term will be positive. And then it's going to be 12, and then go diagonally times by v3. And then I think you could stop here because when you do u prime, so 0 times, so if you did v4, you would have to take the integration of 1 over 343 cosine 7x, right? But I'm not going to do that because 0 times anything is always going to be 0. So you could do so you can just add the plus c. Okay, so when you put it all together, your final answer is going to be, so 6x squared times negative 1/7 cosine 7x is, you can write it as negative 6/7 x squared cosine of 7x. And then the second terms, 12x times negative 1 over 49 sine of 7x times it by negative is, two negatives becomes a positive, so it's plus 12 over 49 x sin of 7x. And then lastly, the last term is 12 times 1/3/4 cosine of 7x is positive, wait, yeah, positive 12 over 343 cosine of 7x, and then don't forget the plus d. Okay, so this is your final answer. So this is tabular method, and like I said before, tabular method doesn't always work. Your u prime eventually has to be 0. So if this u continues, it wouldn't work. What would be a good example? An example that tabular method wouldn't work would be like the integration of e to the x cosine of x dx. If you set your u as cosine of x, your u prime will never eventually become zero, so tabular method will not work for this. So you'll have to use another method. So yeah, this really does save time and like errors if if you have a repeated if you have to do integration by parts more than once. So this is tabular method. Okay, I will stop here.